Have you ever opened the charts and thought, did I miss something? Have you ever looked at a project you truly believe in and suddenly seen red everywhere? And the biggest question, is this really the end? Or is this exactly the phase most people fail to understand? How much time is everyone doing today? I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Today, I want to sit down and calmly talk to you guys about one project that has a lot of emotions attached to it right now. The one, the only Zebec Network. And I want to talk about it honestly, without hype, without fear, just straight facts from the charts and structure. Now, if you're looking at the chart over the last 2 weeks, there's no denying it. We've clearly been in a sell-off. A lot of people are asking, why is Zebec dumping? And I want to be very clear here. In my opinion, this move is mainly because of Bitcoin, not Zebec itself. From a fundamental standpoint, there has been no major negative change that would justify Zebec selling off this aggressively on its own. If you just isolate Zebec and remove the noise, there's honestly no strong fundamental reason to panic, especially when you remember that we had recently broken out of a massive consolidation zone. We were consolidating for nearly 4 weeks, and then we finally saw that strong push to the upside. Even during that breakout candle, I mentioned that the following week would most likely be a retest week. I was looking for confirmation, possibly a rejection candle, or at least some hesitation. But that's not what happened. Instead, the market gave us a full-blown sell-off candle that completely engulfed the prior move. And when I say engulfed, I mean it erased all the work that was done during that breakout week, and then some. Once that happened, that bullish move was no longer valid. The weekly selling pressure completely overpowered the buyers. When we dropped down to the daily time frame, the weakness became even more obvious. We talked about that massive sell-off that happened on Tuesday the 20th. That move broke structure and momentum. After that, for multiple days, price tried to move higher and failed every single time. Those failures led to continued downside pressure. We started forming lower highs, then lower lows, weak bounces, weak buying pressure, followed by stronger sell-offs. This is classic bearish behavior. None of this should be shocking if you've been paying attention to structure. We also talked about this major zone that price was breaking down from. That's exactly why price kept retesting it for several days. And now we're clearly selling through it. These zones below us right now are liquidity zones. These are the areas price wants to target next. There are two main ones I'm watching, one slightly higher and one a bit lower. Now, yes, technically, someone could blindly start dollar cost averaging here, but the reality is there's nothing right now that suggests price is slowing down. No clear reversal signals yet. Any meaningful bounce would most likely come after one of these liquidity zones gets swept around the Z.008 or Z.1 levels. Once those areas are taken, we may see a short-term bounce simply because liquidity has been grabbed. Overall, though, the market is bearish. Even from a trend standpoint, we are disrespecting diagonal support. And because of that, I would not be surprised if we either continue selling off or see a small pullback next week that just leads to more downside afterwards. When we zoom out and look at the monthly time frame, the picture becomes even clearer. We had a massive rejection candle. After a rejection like that, markets don't usually just go sideways. If you look closely, we started the month much higher and ended much lower. All of the buying pressure that came in earlier in the month was completely erased by the close. That's not something you ignore. Now, I know people are starting to panic. Red days do that to people. But personally, I'm not panicking at all. Bitcoin selling off this hard is not a surprise to me. I've been talking for months about major liquidity zones getting swept. So this move, while painful, was expected. We've also seen gold and silver move aggressively. They pulled back recently, but historically, when gold and silver top out, that liquidity often rotates into crypto in the following weeks and months. That's just how markets tend to flow. I understand people are tired of corrections. Nobody enjoys drawdowns. When prices fall, emotions kick in, doubts creep in, and people start questioning everything. But for me, this entire move has been on my radar for a long time. These liquidity zones being taken were discussed months before They actually happened. This specific liquidity sweep was something I talked about all the way back in July, and yes, it finally happened months later in November. It took time, but it played out exactly how structure suggested it would. After that, all we were waiting for was confirmation. And last week was the deciding week on the higher time frame. Once momentum flipped, downside targets became the focus. So now the big question becomes, REITs, how low can Zebec realistically go? For me personally, I don't think Zebec goes much lower than this general area we're approaching right now. I know it's a wide range, but I'm giving price room to breathe. I don't expect Zebec to go much below around 0.01686. Going significantly lower than that would imply a major structural failure across the entire market, and I don't currently see that happening. From a higher time frame perspective, we also have a monthly imbalance that's being filled right now. This is actually healthy from a market structure standpoint. There's a small zone that still needs to be corrected, and once that happens, price action becomes much cleaner. Market makers don't care about tiny wicks or small gaps. Those details don't matter much. What matters is the larger imbalance, and that's exactly what price is addressing right now. When we check indicators, the daily moving averages have flipped bearish again. Momentum is clearly pointing down on the 4-hour time frame. The 50 and 200 moving averages also flipped once structure broke. That was just more confirmation. The overall structure has been repeating the same pattern for a long time. Sideways, sell-off, sideways, sell-off. It's just more aggressive now because Bitcoin is dumping harder. Zebec can only do so much on its own. Looking at RSI, the 4-hour is heavily oversold, which usually leads to some type of short-term retracement. On the daily RSI, buying opportunities historically appear every time we enter these zones. If someone had consistently dollar cost averaged in these areas in the past, they would have gotten excellent entries. Even right now, objectively speaking, this is not a terrible long-term zone. It feels uncomfortable, but historically, these are the areas where smart accumulation happens. So at the end of the day, do what you want with this information. I'm just laying out structure, data, and probabilities as clearly as possible. Let me know in the comments what you guys are planning to do next. Disclaimer, this video is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Cryptocurrency markets are highly volatile, and investing involves risk. Always do your own research and consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions.